Me and my members of Group 24 are going to present a topic called Changing Lifestyle and Impact on Culture in a Global World. These are the group members. These are the topic covered.
The objective of the project The objective of the project is to understand the impact of globalization on the world and India, to learn the history of globalization and how it has changed over the years, to recognize the change in lifestyles and standards of living that has happened due to globalization, to survey and analyze opinions on globalization and its impact.
Research methodology. The types of data collected are primary data and secondary data. Data collection sources. For primary data, we conducted a survey through Google Forms. And for secondary data, we used internet websites, web blogs, and e-newspapers. The samples were collected from 66 respondents, and the sampling technique is convenient sampling method.
Introduction. The concept of globalization is model science, the most popular terms of analysis of social process. The term globalization is social. Logical refers to the board rank of event and illogical. Intense struggle from the establishment of world order, swing in the number of influence of international organization, the weakness of the sovereignty of nation state, the emergence of development transition, cooperation, the growth of international trade, globalization of culture, constitute to the exchange of global cultural value of different countries, the convenience of traditional from cultural globalization characterize convenience of business and consumer culture between the different countries of the world and growth of international communication. In the era of globalization, people became much more concerned about the uniqueness and particularity of their own culture. Culture identity provides the global signifiers of local knowledge and the senses of self, community, and nation. The negative impact of globalization on cultural globalization often result in culture error in some part of the world through TNC, which can bring new service or products in the country. Definition: Have you ever been in? Have you ever been abroad? It does not matter whether you went to Canada, Russia, or Thailand. You may have noticed that every place has something that are the same as your hometown, such as food, fast restaurant like McDonald's or religious drinks being sold in local stores. Those are such a couple of examples of cultural globalization, which refers to the process by which one culture experience, value and ideas are disseminated throughout the world through various means. We explore some example of cultural globalization, the factors that influence it and its effect throughout the world. Passing on to Shraddha.
Thank you, Triksha. Let's see the types of globalization. These are the main eight types of globalization. Technological globalization. Technological globalization refers the spread of technology around the world. Political globalization. Political globalization refers the diplomatic negotiation between the nations and two states. It includes the standardization of global rules around the trade and criminality and the rules of law. Financial globalization. Financial globalization refers the finance ease at which money can be spread around the world. Cultural globalization. Cultural globalization refers the spread of mixing of culture around the world. Ecological globalization. Ecological globalization refers the idea that world needs to consider as to be interconnected ecosystem. Geographical globalization. Geographical globalization refers the idea that the world is no longer seeing the group of the destination as much as it was a one. Sociological globalization. is also known as sociological globalization, refers to the interconnection of our societies. Economic globalization refers the way of corporates do the business as now the multinational organizations do. Thank you. That's on my side. Pass it on to.
Hello everyone, I'm Gayatri Nair. Let's take a look on characteristics of globalization. Firstly, free trade. Globalization allows free trade between countries without government interference. This enables the growth of trade between the countries. As trade flourishes, the economies of related countries associated with trade also grow. It has also resulted in better cooperation between governments that leads to further improvement in trade. Now, secondly, liberalization. Globalization results in the liberalization of business people and allows them to start their businesses in different geographies. For example, Apple, Google, Kellogg's, Nestle, Pfizer are in almost every part of the world. And it is possible because of liberalization and globalization. Then the third one is connectivity. Globalization has helped countries to improve trade relations with each other. It has increased interaction between people and businesses. Similarly, people from all over the world are connected. There is a free exchange of ideas. Where is the use and culture among the people? Now, the opportunity. Globalization is an opportunity for everyone to prosper. It can be developing country or a developed country, but globalization provides opportunities for both equally. Globalization brings opportunities in almost every aspect, including cultural, political, and social aspects. The next one is cultural exchange. Improvement in people-to-people contact have encouraged the intermingling of cultural practices and customs. It has allowed people to exchange ideas, behaviors, and values with other countries. Communities are less isolated as a result of globalization. For example, during the pandemic, many people started watching K-drama and also listening to K-pop songs. After watching and listening to Squid Game and BTS, especially among new generation. The last one is standard of living. With increased economic activity and opportunities for employment, people have more money in their pockets. They also have more options to choose from because of improved job opportunities. It is one of the main reasons why globalization allows more and more people to improve their standard of living. Now, I'm passing over to Atavi. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Atharvi, and I'm going to talk about the history of globalization. We have divided the history of globalization into four parts: early age, medieval age, pre modern or modern era, and modern era. Early age. The example of earliest forms of globalization is the trade links between the Sumerian civilization and the Indus Valley civilization in the 3rd millennium BC. In fact, after this age, there are numerous instances where the trade links were established between various countries like India, Egypt, Greece, and Roman Empire, and so on. There were regular business links between the Parthian Empire, Roman Empire, and the Han Dynasty. The popularity of the trade relations led to the development of various trade routes like Silk Road and so on. Medieval Age. The medieval period was the age of discovery. It was in this period that Africa and Eurasia engaged in cultural and economic exchange between them. Gradually, this led to the growth of colonies in various parts of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. As a result, there was constant blend of ideas, languages, rituals, and customs between the natives and the foreign inhabitants. Third, pre-modern and modern era. The Industrial Revolution in the 19th century was one of the major periods in the history of globalization. Due to the Industrial Revolution, there was significant increase in the quantity and the quality of products. This led to the higher exports and better trade and business relations. Due to better products and colonization, lots of countries across the world became the consumers of the European market. The modern era. Gradually, the economic scenario of the world strengthened and it led to better trade relations and communication. Next slide. Advantages of globalization. Let's look at the advantages of globalization. First, increased global cooperation. For a globalized economy to exist, nations must be willing to put their differences aside and work together. Due to this, increased globalization has been linked to a reduction, though not an elimination of conflict. Increased cross-border investments. According to the course Global Business, globalization has led to an increase in cross-border investment. At the macroeconomic level, this international investment has been shown to enhance welfare on both sides of the equation. The ability for nations to specialize. Global and regional corporations allow nations to heavily lean into their economic strengths, knowing that they can trade products for other resources. It's been shown that when nations specialize in the production of goods or services in which they have an advantage, trade benefits both the parties. Higher standards of living across the globe. Developing nations experience an improved higher standard of living thanks to globalization. According to the World Bank, extreme poverty decreased by 35% since 1990. Across the globe, nearly 1.1 billion people have moved out of extreme poverty since that time. Low cost of production. Globalization allows companies to find lower cost ways to produce their products. It also increases global competition, which drives the prices down and creates a larger variety of choices for consumers. Low costs help people in both developing and already developed countries live better on less money. That's it from my side, passing it on to Anuja.
These are the disadvantages of globalization: unequal economic growth. While globalization tends to increase economic growth for many countries, the growth isn't equal. Richer countries often benefit more than developing countries. Lack of local businesses. The policies permitting globalization tend to take advantages of companies that have the resources and infrastructure to operate their supply chains or distribution in many different smaller countries, which can hedge out small local businesses. For instance, a local burger joint from Mumbai may struggle to compete with the prices of a multinational burger making corporation. Increases potential global recession. When many nations' economic systems becomes interdependent, the likelihood of global recession increases dramatically. Because if one country's economy starts to struggle, this can set off a chain reaction that can affect many other countries simultaneously, causing a worldwide financial crisis. Exploits cheaper labor markets. Globalization allows businesses to increase jobs and economic opportunities in developing countries, where the cost of labor is often cheaper. However, overall economic growth in these countries may be slow or stagnant, causes job displacement. Globalization doesn't result in an increased number of jobs, rather, it redistributes jobs by moving production from high cost to low cost countries. This means that high cost countries often lose jobs due to globalization as the production goes overseas. Thank you. Passing it on to Shraddha.
Thank you, Anuja. Let's see the GDP before after of India. GDP affects the before and after India. In the introduction of globalization changed the Indian society drastically. Globalization and the Indian economy is become the interrelated, and the next economic policy displays the direct influence by of this change. The government shaped the administrative policies according to as well. The aim was to promote the business opportunities and the infrastructure and attract the global investor and increase employment. Globalization of Indian economy is also witness of the impact in the culture, on it the culture. Introduction to the other societies and the norms brought the various changes in the culture as in the countries as well. The special mention is the former finance minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was the forefront man of this movement and ensures the successful implementation of the globalization. He also drafted the economic liberalization proposal. He here are some quick statistics that we will reflect the immediate effect of globalization in economic Indian economy. After 1992, the average annual growth rate of GDP was 6.1%. In 1993 and 1994, the export of Indian recorded the exponential growth of 20%, and also the following financial year it was a healthy 18.4%. In 1995, the total export value of computer services was the $11 billion, and in 2015 is recorded around the $110 billion in the statistics. Let's see the some key points. Key highlights. At the time of independence, the India had the population of 340 millions, and literacy level was also alarmingly low, pegged at the around the 12%. When the India declared the independence in 1947, its GDP was for rupees 2.7 lakh crores, accounted for the palliatory of 3% of world's GDP. According to latest figure from the Ministry Statistic of Program Implementation, the India current had the real GDP of rupees 1 147.79 lakh crores, and around as the 2018 accounted for the 7.74 percentage of global GDP. Thank you. That's on my side. Pass it on to Guy.
Thank you, Shraddha. Let's see an example that how the Tata Group got international recognition. Tata Group is a global enterprise headquartered in Mumbai, India. It was founded by Jamshedji Tata in 1868. The group operates in more than 100 countries across 6 continents. There are some remarkable acquisitions of the Tata Group. The first one is Tata Steel. Tata Iron and Steel Company (TISCO) was later named as Tata Steel Limited. The group bought Anglo-Dutch steelmaker Corus Group for $12 billion. It also acquired Singapore's Nat Steel, Tata Steel Long Products, Tata Steel Thailand, Tata Tinplate, Tayo Roy, Jamshedpur FC, Tata Metallic. Now the Tata Consumer Products. Tata Tea was later named as Tata Consumer Products. The group bought British tea brand Tetley for $450 million. This acquisition was remarked globally in 20. It had acquired the US-based Good Earth Corporation for $32 million, Tata Coffee 8 o'clock, Tata Starbucks, Westside, Titan, etc. Then the Tata Motors. The group paid $2.3 billion to acquire iconic British auto brands Jaguar and Land Rover from Ford Motor Corporation, and this acquisition made Tata Group as internationally recognized company. It also acquired Tata Technologies Limited, Tata Hispano, Tata Hitachi Construction Machinery, Tata Motor Cars. Now Tata Chemicals. The group has bought Indomarco Phosphor of Morocco and Brunner Mond Group of Britain for a total value of $215 million. It had also acquired Tata Chemicals Europe and Tata Salt. The fifth one is Tata Communications. Tata Communications was previously also known as Videsh Sanchar Nigam (BSNL). It acquired Tyco of the US for $130 million, DishNet's India division for $64.28 million, and Telglobe of US for $239 million. Tata Group also has major subsidiaries in TCS, Tata Play, Air India, Tata Digital, Indian Hotels Company Limited, Tata Power, Voltas, and many more. Now I'm passing over to Anuja. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. We conducted a survey to know more about citizens' perspective on this topic. The gender, age distribution, and occupation of the 66 respondents can be seen on the screen. Citizens' perspective. 59.1% agree that the changes made by globalization are accepted by our society. 48.5% agree that the changes are helpful in the growth of culture. 39.4% have neutral views on the topic of satisfaction of Indian citizens by Western culture. 49.3% agree that the standard of living has only grown in urban areas and not in rural areas where most of the population resides. 18.2% do not think that the Indian culture has spread around the world enough to influence other cultures. 56.1% agree that the changes help other cultures have a common understanding. 33.1% strongly agree that they are interested in learning more about the culture and languages of other countries. 48.5% have recommended to their friends and families to experience the culture, music, food of other countries. 42.4% agree that joint families have become rare, especially for those residing in metropolitan cities. 16.7% disagree that globalization has negatively impacted our culture and diluted the ideas of traditional Indian society. 18.2% have neutral views on the changes caused by globalization that have affected the mentality of the people. And these are a few of our responses we received in the form of a pie chart. These are the suggestions provided by our group members.
A positive approach should be made to create effective globalization. Large multinationals should not treat their employees unfairly and exploit tax havens to avoid giving taxes. Welfare schemes should be introduced by the government to cover job losses.
Globalization with neutral domestic policies and regulatory constraints will amount to increase in per capita income and best ways to grasp advanced technologies for technological advancement.
Better education, career training, and less rigid labor market can help the society to adapt to the pressures of globalization and technological advance.
Globalization refers to the transmission of ideas, meaning, and value around the world in such way to extend an intentional social relation. The process is marketing by the common consumption of culture that have been diffused by the internet, popular culture media, and international trade.
Indian government can improve the GDP by increasing the of farmers' income, government expenditure, and improve the investment infrastructure and doing the more effective schemes in urbanizing the rural area in India. Let's see the conclusion of members.
Just like everything else in the world, globalization also comes with its negatives. Unbalanced development is one of its disadvantages. Globalization has made the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Globalization has transformed the relationship between countries and companies, and also people have started respecting each other countries' cultures, customs, and traditions.
According to the survey, people are acknowledging the impact created on our culture by globalization. Changes are happening mainly in the lives of people residing in urban areas. Countries and their cultures are influencing others daily. This is helping us understand each other better.
Globalization has increased the trade of production, ideas, technologies, etc. Create the world without boundaries, but it also has some negative impact on the development country.
Flowing with the globalization, India is shining in nearly every prospect. India is getting the global recognition and slowly moving towards the become a major economic and political strength. Next, let's see it's our sources and links. Thank you.